All right, today we have a Bernina 800 on the bench. I just got finished servicing it and it's running really well. It's going to run well for a long time. These machines are still around. They're quite old, but they're very reliable and robust. And I'm going to just walk through how to thread it up. But first, I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough of the controls. There's not many of them, but you should know what they are if you have this machine. So up here we'll start. This is our width control. So it's the width of the stitch. So if I have it at 0 and you look at the needle goes, one moment, goes up and down. That needle's going to stay stationary in the center, so it's going to be a straight stitch. If I bring it all the way up to 4, we're going to create a zigzag or a satin stitch. It's going to go from one side all the way over to the other side. So that's the full width that the machine is capable of. If I bring it down to say 2, it's going to create a shorter zigzag, or a not shorter, a skinnier, so not as wide of a zigzag. And we go down to 1. It's a very tiny little zigzag. You might need these for different things. The next thing on here, on this same knob, this is your needle position. So if I put it all the way to the left, your needle is going to be in the left position as you see it enter the presser foot. And better yet, let's take the foot off. You can see it as it enters the needle plate. It's on the left side of the needle plate. If I put it in the center, straight up and down, vertical, now that needle is going to be centered in the needle plate. Okay, and if we put it over to the right, it's going to be on the right side. Okay, you might need these for different applications. Next, down here, this is your stitch length. This is controlled by turning the knob, and it will move it up and down. Okay, and that's going to be the length of the stitch. So if we look at the sew out that I just did, you can see that over here the stitches are short and even shorter on the far right. But these ones right here next to the zigzag are really long, and that's what you're controlling. The length of the stitch, how far these feed dogs move. So right now, I'll move them all the way down so you can really see. The feed dogs come up, they move the fabric back, they go back down, they come up, they move the fabric back, they go down, and that's what you're controlling, how much the fabric is moving each stitch. Down here, you've got 2 controls, and this raises or lowers the feed dogs. So as we just looked at the feed dogs, we've got it set on sewing, which we have a zigzag and a straight stitch icon. That means you're sewing. Over here, this is a darning icon. So what's going to happen is when I switch this over to the left, you will see, so it's coming, let's see if you can see, yep, it's coming up above the plate, those feed dogs. But if I put it on the other setting, they stay down. Okay, that's for free motion sewing. That's where the feed dogs no longer control the motion of the fabric, and you control the motion of the fabric and move it back and forth. And that takes a little practice. You have to match your speed to the speed of the machine to be successful. But that's what that control does. Next up here is this right here is our upper tension setting. Okay, so right now on this machine, it's set right to the middle line. If we rotate this wheel, it will move it one way or the other, and we can kind of fine-tune our tension that way. And tension in a sewing machine is essentially a tug-of-war between your upper thread and your lower thread, your bobbin thread. And ideally, you don't want the upper or lower thread bobbin thread to win the tug of war. You don't want the thread to be pulled to the top, and you don't want it to be pulled to the bottom. You want it to join together inside the fabric, so it looks pretty uniform top and bottom. Okay. Up here we've got our bobbin winder, and the way you engage that is you would put a bobbin on here and push it to the right. That's going to engage the winder. There's a rubber wheel in here and engages the clutch on this side. On this machine, before you start winding a bobbin, you want to turn this smaller wheel counterclockwise. You move that counterclockwise, that's going to release the clutch, and that's going to allow you to wind this bobbin and not have the needle move up and down. So that will stay stationary. Then when you're done and you've wound your bobbin, you want to come back here and tighten this back up because it engages the clutch again. Now when this moves, the wheel moves, your needle will go up and down. Okay. In the back here you have your spool pins, and we'll get into those in a minute with threading. We're almost done with the walkthrough and we can get to the threading of the machine. So inside of here you have your bobbin case, and I'll leave that out for the threading. You also have a little button over on the side. If you push it in, it releases this lever. That's so you can clean in here. If you grab this center post, pull out your hook. This is your hook. And you can clean in here, clean the track that's in here, because you're getting impacted lint in there. Putting it back in, you hold the center post, you line it up opposed to this side. It's like a half moon. This is the other half moon. This is the driver. Once that's in there and it's flush, you just push this up, click it back so this lever holds onto it, and you're good to go. Only other controls on the machine are light switch, and back here you've got a take-up lever, and that moves your presser foot up and down. So it goes down onto the fabric and up to release. And this here is your pre-tension for your winder. So your thread will go from your spool to your pre-tension and then over to your bobbin, and that just holds the thread taut while you're winding. Okay, now on to threading. So with these machines, you've got a vertical spool pin. It's a really good idea to have a felt disc underneath. You just put your spool of thread on there. We're going to go over into here. Let's see, there you go. Thread comes over, goes into there, and then we're going to follow it. Goes in between here. Now when you're doing this, when you're threading the upper thread, you always want to have your presser foot up, because that's going to open up those tension discs. Now, you don't want them squeezing until the thread is in there. So make sure your foot is up and use the lever in the back to do that. So now it goes in here and it goes down to this point here. This is your check spring in here. You're going to go in, make sure it clicks into place, and you can see that spring bouncing up and down when you pull on the thread. All right. Then we're going to come up to the take-up lever, which is right here. Now you can rotate if it's not in this position, you can always rotate your hand wheel and move this around to make it more accessible for you. You go from right to left. Make sure it falls down into that hole. Come down, there's a thread guide right at the needle clamp. You're going to go there. And then it's usually a good idea to trim the end of your thread. With a pair of scissors, make a nice clean end on there and put it through the eye of the needle from front to back. Once it's through the eye, you want to take your thread, bring it down through the foot, through the slot in the foot, and just like this, so the thread goes down through the hole in the presser foot, and you can pull on it and see that it's being smoothly released out of the spool of thread. Now we're going to move on to bobbin thread. And on almost every machine, you can put the bobbin in incorrectly. And it's the same way on any machine once you understand what you're trying to achieve. One thing I'd actually like to mention before I continue is you'll see me use a plastic bobbin in this machine. Originally they used a metal bobbin. This is called a 15 class bobbin case. So it's a very standard size. 15 class is used in many, many machines. And you can get 15 class bobbins that are both metal and plastic. Unless there is something specific, like some mechanism in the machine that I need to use the metal bobbin for, I tend to go with the plastic ones for a number of reasons. If the plastic one is broken or damaged in any way, you can see it, right? You can see a crack. You can see a burr in plastic. It also, if you drop a metal bobbin, it'll bend and it'll lose its shape, right? And it can get bound up as it's rotating. And you might not actually see the bend all that well, but you'll be able to tell the tension is all messed up. Where if you drop a plastic bobbin, it's going to spring back to shape, or it's going to crack, and then you can see the damage on that. These are going to corrode over time, and I find these run so much smoother in the bobbin cases. So I tend to use plastic for anything that I can. Certain machines that are fast machines and things, you definitely want to use a metal bobbin. But on this machine, this is just a standard 15 class case. You can certainly use plastic on this machine, and I do it all the time, and they run beautifully. So, but 15 class is the size, so it's how tall it is and the diameter, and you only want to use 15 class bobbins in this machine. Okay, either metal or plastic. But just put them in and pull on them through the tension, and you'll get an idea if it's running smoothly or not. So the important thing with a bobbin case is to understand where your thread is going to exit. On this bobbin case, the thread will go underneath here and out in that direction to the left. Okay? So when you're looking at this, I'm going to put it in incorrectly first, and I want you to see the difference. So let me back up. You're going to put your thread in. The thread goes in through this little notch here, right through there, and then you pull it underneath and snap it underneath this tension. Okay, so this tension flat spring here is going to squeeze on that thread, and then you can pull it out this way, and you can see that the bobbin is turning and releasing thread as you pull. However, it's inserted upside down. You never want your bobbin of thread to be chasing the thread as it exits. In other words, if you notice, I'm pulling to the left and the bobbin case is rotating to the left. You do not want that. Your bobbin can overspin and jam up like that and cause abnormalities in the stitching. Instead, you want to put it in the opposite way. And this is on any machine with any style of bobbin case. It's always this. You want the thread to come off of that spool and make a U-turn and go out. That's going to keep the thread taut. That's going to keep it from jamming up. So now when you notice, when I pull it to the left, it's turning to the right. That thread's going to be taut in there. It's going to be delivered correctly. That's how you want to do it on any machine. Make sure that the rotation is counter to the direction the thread is exiting. Okay. Now we got that. Let's move down here. All right. There is the center pin of the hook. We're going to take this And there is a latch on here, and I see a lot of people wanting to put it in with the latch open, like they think they have to release it to put it in. You don't want to do that. It's going to cause you more problems. Bobbin can fall out, all these different things. You don't want that. Just take it like this, and this arm here is going to, let's see if I can follow this up. There is a notch in the top of this right here. It's an opening at the top. That's where that finger goes. So you just hold it, put it onto the pin, and then once it's in, just push it in. Snaps into place. You're good to go. Okay? Now you can trim this. You know, I've been playing with it, so it's kind of long. You don't want it too short because you want to be able to hold on to your threads when you start up. I'm going to trim it off just a little bit. Now, to bring this thread to the top, you want both the bobbin thread and the upper thread to be above the needle plate when you start out, and the fabric goes in between those two. So you're going to hold on to your upper thread, okay? And then you're going to grab your hand wheel over here, and you're going to rotate it towards you, and you're going to watch when you do that. Let's come down here so you can see a little better. When you do that, the needle bar is going to go down. You still hold on to this thread, and when it comes up, you're going to feel it release. And when that happens, pull your thread upward, and now there's a loop of thread there. That's your bobbin thread from below, coming up through the needle plate. Okay. Here, I can show you what that looks like. You can see there's one thread coming from the bottom, one thread coming from the top. Okay, you're going to take both of those in your hand at once and put them into the presser foot like you did the top thread before. Now you can see there's one coming from the bottom, one coming from the top. So when you start to sew, you're going to hold on to these. You're going to put your fabric in. Your fabric goes in between those two threads. You drop your foot down, okay? And then it's a good practice to hold on to those when you first stitch the first couple stitches. And then you're good to go. And that's how you thread up one of these machines. Guess I could have had that light on the whole time, right? That would have made it a lot easier. All right. Well, hopefully that's helpful. And if you have any questions, put them down in the comments. Or if you have a different machine, this same threading and setup will work for a Bernina 830 record. It's very much a similar machine. A lot of the older Berninas thread in a similar way. But if you have any questions at all, put them down below, or any suggestions for a different machine. When I get one on my bench, I'll definitely make a video for it. And until next time, take care.